para sa panibagong episode na Psych Kaalaman. Saan pag-uusapan natin ng Disruptive Impulse Control and Conduct Disorder. Pero para sa iyo, ano nga ba ang kahulugan ng Disruptive Impulse Control and Conduct Disorder? From the word itself, Disruptive Impulse Control and Conduct Disorder, meron tayo dito nabasa ng control. Ito ay problema sa self-control ng isang tao na nagpo-focus sa behavioral and emotional aspect nila. Pwede kang mag-violate ng rules or conflict sa social norms or authorities. Kaya ako sa tingin mo mas nagiging magagaliting ka na o kaya hindi mo na makontrol yung sarili mo. Minsan nag-violate ka na ng rights ng isang tao. O kaya nagkakaroon na ng conflicts between you and social norms or kaya naman sa authorities. Isa to sa mga sign ng Disruptive Impulse Control and Conduct Disorder.
Tell Miss Leslie what you want.
I'm not gonna come back over there, Joshua, if you're kicking Miss Debbie. If you would like me to come back over there, you need to ask.
Each of the specific type of Disruptive Impulse Control and Conduct Disorder have this section in our DSM-5 and DSM-5-TR, which mean Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder. First, we have diagnostic criteria, diagnostic feature, associated feature, prevalence, comorbidity, development and course, and more. Today, we will discuss the different disorder of Disruptive Impulse Control and Conduct Disorder, kung saan nakapalooban two of the most common externalizing disorder and the additional impulse control disorder, which is specifically intermittent explosive disorder, kleptomania, and pyromania.
So, what is oppositional defiant disorder? Oppositional defiant disorder, it is a type of childhood disruptive behavior disorder that is primarily associated with emotional and behavioral self-regulation problems. And the main characteristic of ODD are persistent pattern of anger or irritability, argumentative or defiant behavior, or obsession with others. People who have a ODD, they have emotional dysregulation. Yun yung dahilan kung bakit sila irritable, they are being resentful to others. Lagi sila nakikipag-argumento, and also they are refusing to follow the authority. Diagnostic criteria of ODD, symptoms should last at least 6 months and the child must have 4 symptoms of the number 1, angry and irritable mood. Mabilis silang mawalan ng pasensya and mabilis din silang maanoy sa mga kaibigan nila or family members, argumentative and defiant behavior. They are being argumentative when someone tries to control their behavior. That's why they refuse to comply with rules and requests. And also, they blame others for their mistakes or behavior. The number 3, vindictiveness. They are being spiteful or vindictive at least twice within the past 6 months. Ito yung mga nakakapagbitaw sila ng masasakit na salita. But let's take a note, for children younger than 5 years old, the behavior should show most days for a period of at least 6 months. And for the individuals or children 5 years or older, the behavior should show at least once per week for at least 6 months. But let's observe kung gaano ka-intense yung behavior na pinapakita nila. We should consider their if they are in the developmental stage, kung ano yung gender nila and kung ano yung culture nila. So, paano natin siya malalaman kung gaano siya kalala? Kapag mild, yung symptoms na to, it is present only to one setting. Example, at home, school, workplace, or with peers, or with other people. Moderate, these symptoms is present in at least 2 settings. And kapag severe naman, these symptoms are present in 3 or more settings. Specifiers, It is not rare for people with oppositional defiant disorder to have symptoms only at home or with family members. Next one is diagnostic features. Like I said earlier, the common features of ODD are persistent of patterns of anger or irritability, argumentative or defiant behavior, or obsession with others. And pangalawa, yung symptoms na to, napapakita siya sa isang setting only and ang common nga sa bahay. And kapag nakikita siya sa multiple settings, it is a severe case. Third one, the symptoms should last at least 6 months with 4 or more symptoms. And the last one, symptoms of this disorder are often part of a pattern of problematic interaction with others because they are being aggressive. They tend to destroy the property of other people and nagnanakaw sila or they steal things. And also, they hurt pet. That's why that is considered as antisocial behavior. Associated features. Two of the most common conditions with ODD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or ADHD and conduct disorder. It also has been associated with increased risk of suicide. And also, these two conditions involves changes in brain chemistry na nagkakos ng symptoms such as uncontrolled, impulsive, and aggressive behavior. And prevalence of ODD, it ranged from 1% to 11% with an average estimate of around 3.3%. The disorder is more common in men than women before puberty. Next, development and course of ODD. Symptoms of ODD usually begin in preschool age. ODD can develop later pero kalimitan sa mga teenage years. But the exact cause of disorder is unknown. Maybe it is a combination of genetic and environmental factors. And we will be tackling this one in the prognosis and risk of the ODD. And the second one is many of the behaviors associated with oppositional defiant disorder increase in frequency during the preschool period and in adolescence. There is also increased risk for a number of problems in adjusting as adult. It includes functional impairments such as social behavior, anxiety, and depression. Risk prognosis of ODD. The possible risk factors and prognosis of ODD are the number 1, temperament. Ito yung nahihirapan sila i-manage yung emotion nila. For example, reacting with a strong emotion to a specific situations. And the number 2, environment. Example nito, halimbawa sa bahay nila, they experience childhood maltreatment, harsh discipline, or they are being abused o kaya napabayaan sila ng magulang nila. Dahil rito, mataas din yung chance na bulihin nila yung taong nakapaligid sa kanila or siya yung mabuli ng ibang tao dahil sa behavior niya. The number 3 is genetic and psychological. It has been linked to a number of neurobiological markers such as decreased basal or basal cortisol reactivity and abnormalities in the prefrontal cortex and amygdala. Next one is functional consequences of ODD. The example are conflicts with parents and teachers, supervisor, and poor relationship with others because of their behavior, the results of substantial weakness in the person's emotional, social, intellectual, and occupational adjustment. Comorbidity of ODD. The most common are ADHD and conduct disorder, increased risk of anxiety disorders, substance use disorder, and major depressive disorder. Same lang sila ng explanation sa associated features. These two conditions involve changes in brain chemistry that cause symptoms such as controlled, impulsive, and aggressive behavior. And this is common to boys than girls, and it can be overwhelming to their parents.
Intermittent explosive disorder or IED is a condition characterized by sudden or frequent outbursts of aggression, rage, or violence. These reactions are unusual and unexpected. People with this disorder may throw tantrums, destroy property, or assault someone physically or mentally. Diagnosis of intermittent explosive disorder should not be given to individuals with the stress-destructive dysregulation disorder or to individuals whose impulsive aggressive outbursts are attributable to another medical condition. Depressive disorder, anxiety disorder, and substance use disorders. These are the disorders associated with intermittent explosive disorder. The prevalence of intermittent explosive disorder is greater than in men and boys than in women and girls. Other studies have found no sex or gender preferences. The course of the disorder may be episodic with recurrent periods of impulsive to aggressive outbursts. It also appears to be quite common regardless of the presence or absence of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or ADHD or other disruptive impulse control and conduct disorder. There are three types of functional consequences of intermittent disorder or IED. First, the social, example natin yun sa loss of friends, relatives, marital instability. Next is the financial, then lastly sa legal, example natin yun sa criminal charges for assault.
For someone to be diagnosed to conduct disorder, it needs to meet the following requirements. Show at least 3 of the 15 criteria in the past year, and one of these criteria should be present for the past 6 months. Behavior causes clinically significant impairment in social, academic, or occupational functioning. Lastly, if they are older than 18 years, they cannot have met the criteria for antisocial personality disorder. Dito sa diagnostic criteria, meron tayo ditong aggression to people and animals. Dito pumapasok yung bullying, physical fights. For example, isang batang lalaki, mahilig niyang asarin yung kapwa niya batang lalaki. Like, gusto niyang pinoprovoke hanggang mapikon na tong isa. And other example is sa dog niya, mahilig siya mang-trigger ng hayop. Minsan, sinasaktan niya pa to. Next is destruction of property or destroying na property. Dito yung intentionally niya gustong makadamage ng isang pagmamay-ari ng iba. Like fire setting. Next is deceitfulness or theft. Ito yung mahilig siyang manlinlang ng tao. Like, sisirain niya yung bagay na yon pero hindi niya aakuin yung obligation sa nasira niya. Nandito din yung pagnanakaw, pagkuha ng gamit na hindi kanya, or shoplifting. Papasok siya sa isang mall, pero tatangayin niya lang yung bagay na interesado siya. When he starting showing symptoms at 9 years old, he has a childhood onset type. Based on research that children with conduct disorder are more at risk to develop ADHD and anxiety disorder in their lives. For the children, adolescents conduct disorder are more at risk of PTSD and alcohol substance use disorder. Pero kung sila ay 18 years na pataas, hindi na ito pasok sa criteria na meron tayo or hindi na nila maaring maranasan yung antisocial personality disorder. And depending of the severity of conduct disorder, we can rate the severity in the categories which are mild, intermediate, and severe. Risk and prognosis environmental. This includes harsh parenting, parent-to-child conflicts, low socioeconomic status, community violence. Research also found that 20% of children with conduct disorder have affected by childhood trauma and abuse. Other affected brain areas are moral decision-making, face processing, and motor function.
Specify whether childhood onset type. Show at least one symptoms. Age 10 years old, adolescence onset type. No symptom at the age 10. Unspecified onset. Criteria for diagnosis are met but not enough info if symptoms are before or after the age of 10. Specify if with limited prosocial emotions, lack of remorse or guilt, callous lack of empathy, unconcerned about performance, shallow or deficient affect. Specify severity, mild. Few excess of those required for diagnosis are present and it causes minor problems or harm. Moderate. Conduct problems and effects on others are intermediate between mild and severe. Severe. Many excess of those required for diagnosis are present, and it causes considerable problems or harm.
Antisocial personality disorder, sometimes called sociopathy, is a mental condition in which a person consistently shows no regard for right and wrong and also ignores the rights and feelings of others. It says that people antisocial personality disorder tend to antagonize, manipulate, or treat others harshly with callous indifference. They show no guilt or remorse for their behavior. Diagnostic criteria. To be diagnosed with ASPD, a person would have to show symptoms before age 15. A diagnosis can't be made until age 18. Symptoms are usually at their worst during a person's late teenage years and their 20s. Diagnostic features. A psychological evaluation that explores thoughts, feelings, relationship, behavior patterns, and family history. Have difficulty sustaining long-term relationships, be unable to control their anger, lack guilt or not learning from their mistakes, blame others for problems in their lives, repeatedly break the law. A person with antisocial personality disorder will have a history of conduct disorder during childhood.
So let's start describing pyromania. Ano nga ba ang pyromania? In pyromania, people having this kind of disorder tends to start fire na kahit alam naman nila na mali na gawin niyon, pero ginagawa pa rin nila because di nila makontrol ang urges nila to do so. And their body wants it. Kapag di naman nila na-fulfill ang gusto nilang gawin, is magiging agitated sila or magiging unconfused sila sa araw na yon.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
Magtungo naman tayo sa diagnostic criteria ng pyromania. Before they set fire to any place, they once feel tension or arousal. And then, if nagawa na nila yun at naging successful, nakita nila ang apoy na nakapagpasaya sa kanila, they feel sense of gratification and relief. Habang nakikita nila itong nasusunog. Wala mas nagalit or mapapala sa pag-start ng fire na yun. They just start fire because they are fascinated and attracted to it. Kaya ang nangyayari, paulit-ulit nila ginagawa yun and to feel satisfied and happy. nagiging continuous process na lang yung ginagawa nila na kapag hindi naagapan is mas lalala na mas lalala. Kaya kailangan ng diagnostic na isang psychologist doon, and we should be knowledgeable about that. So, some associated feature of disorder is this. Dahil sa distraction na nagawa ng actions nila, mas lalo silang satisfied that will lead them to do it again. Para bang naging drugs and alcohol yung para sa kanila kasi they got addicted to it. Their mind is fixated to fire na pag wala yun is magagalit sila. Hindi uncomfy or irritated. They also often have a history of alcohol use disorder. Here are the prevalence of pyromania. Population prevalence is not known. Lifetime prevalence, 1.13% of population sample, not sufficient for diagnosis by itself. While in our DSM-5-TR, it is not now updated to 1.0 to 1.1. Pyromania in childhood is very rare, while 3.3% had symptoms that met full criteria for pyromania that reached the criminal system by repeatedly setting fire. While in our DSM-5-TR, it is now 3.4. Kulang pa din as of that time sa DSM-5 ang typical age of onset ng pyromania. While sa DSM-5-TR, updated na ito, it says na yung late adolescence ang typical age of onset nito. It also says na males are much prone to having pyromania. It is associated with conduct disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or adjustment disorder. Sa comorbidity naman ng pyromania, there are high occurrence of this specific type of disorder. First is substance use disorder, second gambling disorder, third depressive and bipolar disorder, and then fourth other disruptive impulse control and conduct disorder. Kleptomania is a mental health disorder that involves repeatedly being unable to resist urges to steal items that you generally don't really need. May times na they are not usually aware na ginawa nila ito, and then pagkatapos ng insidente na yon, nakita nila na nasa kamay na pala nila yon. Isa itong serious condition na kapag hindi naagapan is mas lalala, at may times na pwede ka pang makulong dahil sa disorder na ito.
Stop it. Get some help.
Sa diagnostic criteria naman ng kleptomania, katulad ng sa pyromania, there are also increased tension while they are doing it, pero pag tapos yun is napabalitan ng relief. Di din ito dahil sa galit or paghihigante. They just did it because they have lack of self-control, or minsan, ito yung response nila sa delusion or hallucination nila. Di naman porkit may sakit na ganito is gusto na nila na kumuha ng gamit ng iba. They just can't resist their body. Sa diagnostic feature naman, yung mga nakuha nilang gamit is hindi naman ganun ka-high value or hindi naman nila kailangan yun, pero nakukuha pa rin nila yun. Kaya, kapag nag-aware na yung tao na yun, is pinabalik nila yung item na nakuha nila. Which is, syempre, pagdududahan ka ng may-ari, bakit kinuha mo yun? And they will realize na meron kang ganung sakit. If nagpa-check up ko or napag-diagnose ka, hindi man nila gusto yung nangyayari sa kanila kasi alam nilang mali, na hindi tama, na wala namang sense na mangyayari kung gagawin nila yon. Pero yung body nila, yung kumikilos para gawin yung bagay na yun. Which is, hindi nila kontrolado yung mga ginagawa nila. Kaya, nagko-commit sila ng stealing. Kleptomania occurs in about 4% to 24% of individuals arrested for shoplifting. Its prevalence in the U.S. general population is very rare, at approximately 0.3% to 0.6%. Women outnumber men at a ratio of 3.1. Sa development and course naman ng kleptomania, the disorder may begin in childhood, adolescence, or adulthood, and in rare cases in late adulthood. There are three typical courses of kleptomania: sporadic with brief episode and long periods of remissions, episodic with protracted periods of stealing and periods of remission, and chronic with some degree of fluctuation. The disorder may continue for years despite multiple convictions for shoplifting. In the comorbidity of kleptomania, these are the disorders that associated with it. First, the depressive and bipolar disorder. Second is anxiety and eating disorder. Third is personality disorder. And lastly is the substance use
Others specify disruptive impulse control and conduct disorder. It is available when patterns of behavior do not fit the criteria for ODD or CD, yet present significant disruption and impairment in functioning and thus require intervention. This is done by recording other specified disruptive impulse control and conduct disorder. And to make it simple na lang, ito yung may behavioral pattern na nagpapakita ng disruption and functioning impairment pero hindi na-meet yung criteria ng ODD or CD. Siguro hindi nag-last ng 6 months at hindi naging consistent yung symptoms.
The unspecified disruptive impulse control and conduct disorder. This category applies to presentations in which symptoms characteristic of a disruptive impulse control and conduct disorder that cause clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning predominate but do not meet the full criteria for any of the disorders in the disruptive impulse control and conduct disorder diagnostic class.